Tekken 7 is the benchmark when it comes to 3D fighting games. With loads of legendary characters, each with their chosen martial art, Tekken is the perfect game for someone who wants to pick a fighting style, master it, and show everyone, especially their mates, why theirs is the best. It's a fairly complicated game, with every one of the 36 characters possessing a moves list with hundreds of different attacks. It's tough to know exactly how to take your game to the next level. Well, fear not. Here's a bunch of tips and tricks that will take you from button masher to Tekken master in no time. 1. Find your main. Tekken 7 is a fairly well balanced game, and most characters can be a serious threat in competitions and tournaments. However, some characters are just straight up easier to use than others. This isn't just a case of them being more effective when you mash buttons either. Some characters have a more versatile selection of moves, as well as moves that are just easier to pull off. So as tempting as it is to pick Devil Jim because he looks badass and can shoot lasers, it's worth knowing that some of his best moves are going to require you to perform just frames. These are special moves that only work if you perform the input accurately to one frame of animation. Unsurprisingly, these moves require a lot of practice until you can do them reliably. Characters like Jack 7, Asuka Kazama and Claudio are all great starting points. One of the best players in the world, Saint from Korea, uses Jack 7 due to his long limbs, ranged launches and simple but extremely damaging combos. The downside to these easier to use characters is that they're easier to figure out too. When you're starting out, try a few characters in training mode and run through the example combos in the move list. If you like their style, then you can start thinking about how to chain moves and develop your strategy. It's a good idea to master one character completely with a few others you know well, and you'll improve faster than trying to learn everything at once. 2. Customize button binds. Tekken is a game that really benefits from being played on a fight stick, but there's still a lot of players who use their control pad. The main thing is there's a lot of moves in Tekken that require you to hit 2 buttons at once. Hitting triangle and X on PlayStation or Y and A on an Xbox pad is going to require either a truly impressive thumb or for you to adopt a weird claw grip. It is possible to map most 2-button inputs to shoulder buttons by hitting Start, Options and then going into the controller menu, and with a bit of thought you'll be able to simplify some of the more pad unfriendly moves. King's grab combos are good candidates, and most moves that require opposing punches and kicks to be pressed at the same time, like Geese Howard's max mode cancel or Brian Fury's gravity blow. If you're playing on a pad, these moves will otherwise require some serious finger gymnastics. 3. Rage Art versus Rage Drive. Tekken 7's comeback mechanic is the Rage system. When your health is low, your character will begin glowing red. This means you can use either their Rage Art or Rage Drive. A Rage Art is like a super in Street Fighter, a flashy animation that can absorb a hit or two before delivering a big chunk of damage. The lower your health, the more damage the Rage Art deals. A Rage Drive is a bit less flashy, but can be used within combos to extend them in ways that you normally wouldn't be able to. They're both useful depending on the circumstances. Because of the armor during the startup animation, Rage Arts are best used to catch out an aggressive opponent who is trying to finish the round wildly throwing out moves. The Rage Drive requires a bit more planning. The game doesn't tell you where or when it can be best used, so some time in training mode will be needed to see where you can best use it. Try ending a combo with the Rage Drive and see if you can continue afterwards, or see if there's an increase in damage which could be the difference between winning and losing. At higher levels, the Rage Drive is used a lot more. It's more versatile and the Rage Arts are easy to bait out, leaving you open to be punished. Also, although you can absorb hits when the Rage Art is starting up, remember that you need to have the health to survive them, otherwise you'll die and it'll all be for nothing. 4. Movement. As a 3D fighting game, you have more than just 8 directions to move in. You can step in and out of the screen to avoid attacks, and you can also throw strikes that will hit around your character as well as directly in front of them. You can walk an opponent into a corner, into walls, and cut off the arena with strategic sidestepping. The most important part of movement is your ability to close and gain distance. Doing a basic backdash is quite slow and can be read and punished by a smart opponent, but there's a trick you can do to get around this. It's not easy though. Backdash cancelling, or Korean backdashing as it's also known, is the act of cancelling the full animation of a backdash by quickly tapping crouch. Once you've cancelled your first backdash, you can then continue to chain them together by pressing back, down back, and resetting to neutral and repeating that combination. This will allow you to quickly retreat, but because you're not stuck in the full backdash animation, you're also able to defend yourself much more effectively. The thing about this is that it is a really difficult trick to pull off. High-level Tekken players actually practice this as much as their combos. It's tough, and we recommend getting used to doing a couple of reps of it before you start trying to backdash across the whole screen. It's also something you're going to need to practice from both sides of the screen, as it requires different muscle memory depending on which direction you're backdashing. 5. Frame data. Due to the amount of moves available in Tekken 7, the quickest way to know which ones are the most useful is to take a look at the game's frame data, which unfortunately isn't available in the game anywhere. Luckily, the Tekken community is an active one, and a quick search will bring up plenty of resources where this stuff is simple to look up. There's plenty of complicated things that you can find out using frame data, but at its most basic, what you want to be looking at is how many negative frames an opponent's move will be when you block it, and what the startup is on all of your moves. If the number of startup frames is less than the number of negative frames, you can use that move to punish an opening. Simple, right? You want to be looking at things like your combo starters and moves that launch the opponent, which you'll discover through the example combos, as they're the ones that will give you the most damage when you land them. It's also worth looking at this the other way and seeing what moves your character has that can't be punished. These will be your go-to moves when you're in neutral standing. It's a lot to take in, but knowing what your guaranteed punishes are and what moves are safe to use is going to give you an instant leg up on your competition. 6. Practice. Like all fighting games, all of this is for nothing if you can't apply it in a real fight against another player. So spending time in practice mode, drilling combos, practicing backdashes, and learning what you can use to punish certain moves is extremely important. There are 2 actions for the training dummy, and this is something that confuses a lot of people when they first dive into Tekken's training mode. The first action is what the dummy will do immediately, and the second action is what the dummy will do after the first hit lands. So, if you set the second action to guard all, this is a great indicator as to whether or not your combo is actually legit, because if the first hit lands and then the CPU blocks the follow-up, then you're putting yourself in danger. Another good practice routine is to use the ground technique command in the practice menu, which allows you to choose what the practice dummy does when it gets up off of the floor. What this will allow you to do is to test moves out to see how they work with each situation. For example, setting them to quick back roll means that they will get up faster and move slightly away, so you'd have to change your attacks, or in a real match they'll be able to recover and punish you. There's lots of different scenarios you can recreate using these tools, and as you improve, you'll be using these more and more. To start with, keep it simple. Tekken 7 is one of the more complex games out there, so we've kept it to the basics this time around. Practice a few of these core fundamentals and you'll see improvements quickly, and then it will be time to step up to the next level. Get training, jump online, and even head out to a local tournament and test yourself against other players in a way that only fighting games can provide. If you've got any tips you'd like to share with new players, leave them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, click the thumbs up icon and subscribe to Ultimo Hombre for more game guides, competitive gaming, and news from our live events.